Hello. I'm setting my timer for 45 minutes. Because I don't know about you, but, I sat all morning and now I just had too big a lunch. So if you need to take a nap, go ahead. If you need to walk out, I'm not going to give you the hairy eyeball. If you need, whatever you want to do, go ahead. There we go, start. Perfect. I have a handout, which I'm going to give you a little later, because how many people have ever heard of something called a culture assimilator? Oh, this is going to be good. Okay, so the best way to understand them is to see one for the first time and really go through it, and then I'll give you the handout which explains it and explains how to do it, and we'll do some other stuff. I came to Murray in 1997, and I work with the Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages program, and like you, I've been everywhere, been there, taught that, done this. My perspective is much more from, say, an analytical linguistic perspective. So we're going to work on just like one technique called culture assimilator, and it's super easy. I didn't make it up. It's a scenario-based problem-answer instrument originally designed to help travelers and business people in the 1970s go to other countries and develop skills before they went to try and avoid or resolve potential problems in intercultural communication. And a lot of the early ones were behaviorally based, but it's very good also with linguistics and idioms and metaphors, as we were talking before. However, one of the interesting things is we've had these great conversations today, and we haven't talked about what culture is. Like, we never came up with, like, we're all going intercultural this, intercultural that. The working definition I'll work off today is it's a set of beliefs shared by a group of people, as opposed to be of people, sorry. It includes the rules and norms for acceptable behavior which come from those beliefs. That makes a syllabus a cultural artifact. And in fact, it's a really good cultural artifact. I'm chair of the Department of English and Philosophy for 2 years, and I totally love many days. I really love. But one of the things I think is really fascinating is, one, students don't really understand what a syllabus is. They all know courses involve one. Professors know courses involve one, and yet I get a lot of really different answers and different interpretations of what syllabuses are anyway. And part of the job of the chair is to make sure everybody has a syllabus, make sure it conforms to the university regulations. So I've been thinking a lot about that in the last couple years. So according to you, experienced pedagogical people, what do you think a syllabus is? How do you define it? A what? No, I said all, not old, all, A-L-L. All y'all. Actually, from upstate New York, you guys. It's a contract. A contract. A syllabus is a contract. What kind of contract? Between the professor and the students. Everybody okay so far? I think this is pretty... Oh, really? Yeah, you know what's really funny? Academic Council doesn't think that at all. In fact, they get really upset when you start treating it as a... So let's go back to contract as its literal sort of, though it sometimes turns in more into a tentative guideline. If it's a contract between a professor and a student, what does it contract? Expectations for the course. By whom? Whose expectations? Both. Because students don't have anything to do with the creation of a syllabus. It reflects student expectations, though they can read it and form some.
That's what we expect of them, and then also what they can expect
from us. Yeah, it is. I think in its best form, if there is a best form for a syllabus, it's what we say we're going to do and what we say they're going to do. And what we say is going to happen, and what we say how it's going to happen, and what we say how we're going to measure it, basically, in a global. So do you think our native speaking students, the ones who are domestic, I like that term, I'm going to use that term from now on. Our domestic students think of a syllabus as a contract? The tentative guideline. Well, unfortunately, maybe they've seen them used that way. That's the problem. What about our international students? You guys, I will say that. You guys have a lot of experience in other cultures. How many of them used a syllabus the way American universities, in particular, say, in this region, state universities use? Or do they use them at all? Yes?
My students often ignore the syllabus, and for them, I've noticed that, first of all, their culture is verbal, where important things are transmitted verbally, not in documents. The other attitude that they may have is that laws, syllabus is for fools, you can always get around it, so if they don't even pay attention to it, so I don't know, I mean, like, they ask me questions that kind of tell me they never open the syllabus, like they ask me, so how many exams you can have and all these things. And they're not trying to ignore me, but they kind of, in their culture, like whatever is written, kind of, it's not that valid. I need to go to the authority and kind of find out from the first source how many exams you can have, something like that.
Yeah, I don't read the law. I ask the judge. That's what we say. I'll skip the law because it's the judge who's going to say one way or another. It's really interesting how, so one of the things that gave me the idea for doing this presentation is that I think syllabi are really important to most teachers. And if they're not, just pretend they are for 40 minutes. So we're going to use a technique. This is super easy. It's called a culture assimilator. And some people don't like the term assimilator because it assumes that international students are going to assimilate to American culture. And so I've seen them in psychology. They're actually calling them intercultural sensitizers now, which is, I'm like, yeah, whatever, okay. I think assimilator works. For that semester, they need to be a student in your class. That's the job. I have no problem divorcing that from their identity of who they were before and the great person they're going to become and the millions of cultures they belong to. I think of this very concretely in, you're in this class, you have a role in this class, I have a role in this class, and the syllabus tells us a lot. Assimilators are proactive. They anticipate really common issues. So you can go over them before you have a trouble. As we're going to do when we do brainstorming, you start from that. If I hear X one more time, that's a really good assimilator topic. Whatever it is, that's a really good one to base. They are really specific, and this is possibly why you never heard of them. In the 1970s and 80s, everybody kind of went crazy with assimilators because they'll teach you all about Thai culture. Thai culture was the first assimilator by Brislin. And then they did ones for all these other ones. And over time, cultures change. And over time, things change. And it takes a while to make these. But your class doesn't actually change that much. And the idea of the syllabus doesn't actually change this much. And they often address a very specific problem that is true in your class, but maybe not your class. And maybe not your class. So you make them yourself. This is why they're so good, because they fit exactly what you're trying to do and exactly what you want students to understand. They provide explanations for aspects of the class at the university that aren't always articulated. Like, what does it mean to be late? What does it mean to all these things? Though the plagiarism thing is now this long, a page and a half that we have to put in, and it's still not that clear sometimes to students what's going on. And once you have them made, you can use it as hey, here's a problem you guys need to think about before you turn in your project, beginning of class exercise. If you're doing something that's has a more intercultural unit to it, or if you teach pedagogy classes like I do, then they can become the jumping off point for much wider discussions, which is a lot of fun. So the format of a culture assimilator is really easy. You write out a scenario, you present 3 or 4 options to account for what happens in the scenario, and then you write an explanation of each possible option. One option is the answer, and the others are detractors. They all get explanations. Now, we like this so much, even though it's a kind of, adapt this however you want, but it's kind of a clunky tool. But it makes you kind of unpack your own cultural assumptions, which is why it's so good for professors to do these, because it makes you say exactly what you mean. In our TESOL MA program, we do this as a very, very common exercise in our intercultural communication class. And we make students, both native speakers and non-native speakers, write their own as part of a major assignment. And so what I'm going to show you now is an actual culture assimilator written by used by permission, written by 2 students, and then you'll see the format and see how they work. So, Nadia and Anna, not their real names, are graduate students from the Middle East, and they room together off campus. They usually walk wherever they need to go. At 9 p.m., after a night class in January, a female classmate from the US says, "It's very cold tonight. Would you like me to give you a ride home?" The women reply, "Oh no, we like to walk." The classmate says, "Okay," and leaves. The women are shocked, and this is much funnier when they tell this story, shocked that she doesn't insist on some more, as they had intended to accept the second time the ride was offered. On the cold walk home, they decide that the classmate didn't really mean the offer. So this is the scenario part. 3 options. Which of the following would explain the classmate's behavior? A, she didn't really mean the offer. Everyone knows Americans are direct and not very polite. B, she didn't really mean the offer. She wanted to get home herself and was glad the women didn't accept. C, she meant the offer, but she thought the women really wanted to walk. Which one do you think it is? B? A? You want to ride home? No, thank goodness. Okay, so here's what you do now. You unpack each one. Answer A, she didn't really mean the offer. Everyone knows Americans are direct and not very polite. This is not the best answer, so that's the format. You tell them right away whether they're on target or not. Explanation, most Americans think of themselves as polite. Believe it or not, that surprises students. Most people from many cultures think of themselves as polite, but these are the sorts of things that cause misunderstandings. In this case, the speaker may have refrained from insisting for another reason. Answer B. She really didn't mean the offer. She wanted to get home herself and was glad the women didn't accept. Explanation. In American culture, insisting or repeating an offer can be perceived as impolite or as pushy. So there may be a reason that the classmate didn't insist, but she likely meant it. And of course, C. She meant the offer, but she thought the women really wanted to walk, which sounds crazy on the surface, but here's the explanation. When the women responded, "Oh no, we like to walk," they were signaling their independence, and respect of independence is a highly valued trait in US culture. So in fact, we have that balance. We're always and linguistically, we negotiate this all the time. I want to help you out and be nice, but my culture also says I need to respect your independence. So that's why sometimes people from other cultures get very conflicting signals linguistically from Americans, because you do it. You all do it. You just don't think, you don't pay attention to it because you're so good at it. So when we unpack it like this, they're like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." After we went through this and I got permission to use it, it wasn't even in my class. It was like 2 years after, but we were working on a project. The 3 of us came up with something really interesting. To avoid this issue in the future, there is a phrase in American English which signals that if a person were to offer again, you would accept. Do you know what it is? "I don't want to put you to any trouble," or "Are you sure?" or "I don't want you to go out of your way." I mean, there are all kinds of paraphrases, but the one job of that phrase is to say, if you offer again, I'm amenable. That's the one job of all these multi-phrases. And here's what's really interesting. I've never seen a book in English as a foreign language that explicitly says this. So whenever I teach a class of ESL or EFL students, I tell them this. I go, "Here's something that'll really help you." Because sometimes, like in other cultures, the rules are different. It is you offer, you say no. I offer, you say no. Third or fourth time, you'll say yes. And I don't even know how to signal really no. I mean, we've all ended up with tons more than we want to eat or something because we couldn't figure out how to really signal no. So, back to now you've seen this. This is the handout now for you all. What we're going to do is we're going to use a culture assimilator to try and pinpoint stuff we would like to explicate better to our grad students, international students, grad or undergrad, so that they can develop some skills to understand what we're really talking about with respect to any particular course you are teaching. Can I just look at that for a minute? And when it says sample on handout, I mean the back of the last page. This is a syllabus culture assimilator for a syllabus. So Lee is this happened to me. This is my example. Lee is an international student in an English class at an American state university. After class one day, he went up to his instructor to ask a question about his paper, but the instructor told Lee to come to his office during office hours and then left the room. Lee has decided his instructor does not want to help him. Which of the following would best explain the instructor's behavior? A, the instructor did not know the answer to Lee's question. B, the instructor was trying to delay helping Lee, assume he would not bother him further. C, the instructor did not have time to answer Lee's question. See, I make them all see after a while. The students figure it out. I mean, it's not really a test. Right? But what's important are those explanations. This is what helps students understand. The instructor did not know the answer to Lee's question. This is not the best choice. In American academic culture, it is acceptable to admit that one does not know an answer, even for instructors. If the instructor did not know, he would have said so. And that's a shock to anybody who is taught, especially in Asia. The idea that you would say, first time I was writing on the board in Taiwan and I made a mistake, I was doing a teacher training workshop, they're all like, oh, how should, and they're still whispering. I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, finally one brave one says, you spelled that word wrong. I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. Any other, and they're like, I can't, the world was rocked. I don't think they were paying any more attention to the whole rest of that thing because that was just so weird, right? Yes, sometimes it is perfectly okay. In fact, the longer I teach, the more I feel comfortable saying that. I don't know. Let's figure it out. B, the instructor was trying to delay helping Lee and assumed he would not bother him further, which also happens in some cultures. If I try to put you off, maybe you'll forget to ask. However, instructors are expected to be available to answer student questions, and they usually take this responsibility seriously. There is a better explanation for the instructor's behavior. Please make another choice. C, the instructor did not have time to listen to Lee's question. Instructors often have more than one class to teach or other job duties which prevent them from staying after a class meeting ends. Office hours are the days, times which instructors set aside, especially to see students and answer questions, which is one of my biggies. Not that I don't love my students, but I'm like, I gotta go, guys. We walk towards the door, we pick up our stuff, we turn off the lights, we do that kind of thing. That, for me, office hours are a really important aspect of figuring out how to talk to a professor. So, you're gonna do this. You're gonna choose an issue, you're gonna work in groups, describe the problem, give 3 or 4 options, provide rationale and explanation. And we'll do a step at a time. So let's try brainstorming. First, reflection. Just take a minute and then I'll ask for any volunteers who want to share. What do you put on your syllabi that you think, of all the things we put on syllabi? And I, of course, handily included the Murray State template, truncated. I took out the obligatory language and just say insert obligatory language here. This is the template of the syllabus that we are supposed to use. What information do you put on your syllabi that you feel is most crucial for student success? Take a minute. From your perspective, you're the one who's going to be creating the syllabus and the assimilator if you're going to. Okay, what do you think? Anyone? Attendance. Good one, I'm writing that down. In addition to attendance? Deadlines. What else? Evaluation and grading. What about evaluation and grading? Any specific? No late assignments. You want to have some fun with your students? Next time, when you teach class next, have them close everything. They're not allowed to look. Hold up a $10 bill and tell them that you will give this $10 bill to the first person who can tell you one objective that has been listed on the syllabus. Just wave it around. Safest $10 you'll ever risk. Wave it around. Wave it around. We think it's important. They often do not. They often do not, which is really funny. What else? Academic honesty. The academic honesty. Prerequisites? As in, if you don't have them, don't ask, please. Yeah, okay, good. What else?
Chapters covered. A lot of them, they're concerned how many chapters will be covered.
Chapters. Good. What else? Exams and assignments. Text. What was the second one? Yeah, the second one will probably be a subset of our first list. What else?
I was just saying a lot of them, our domestic students said the same thing.
Yeah. Anything else? Good. Okay, now, out of this, are there any policies that out of what we've mentioned or out of what we haven't mentioned, that international students have particular trouble with? Attendance, check. Academic honesty. I will say, though, to be fair, as a chair, all the academic honesty violations come across my desk, and native speakers outweigh the non-native speakers by a lot. We do a lot of the university studies courses. Have you? Oh, I'm going to your department. Yeah.
Well, I think all of it is the not understanding it fully, not just that they are victims of it.
Not understanding. Any other comments? Those are the biggies.
We go over the syllabus, many of them, they're already fretting.
Like which one? Even though we go over them, we show them how they're weighed, we show them.
The number of assignments, it does come from the international students. They're concerned about the amount of work that has to be done.
I will say that's a really interesting insight because now that I think about it, you may be right. When at the beginning of the semester, if somebody's going to come to me and say, "I'm worried that I can't handle the work in this course," it's going to be the international students. That doesn't mean the speakers can handle the work in the course. It means they don't come to me and talk to me about it. Interesting. Anything else? Good. So, what you're going to do, so move if you're all alone. Sorry. Move if you're all alone. Get with at least one other person. Of 3 or 4 are fine. There are no rules here. And talk about developing one example. Sketch out the scenario. Sketch out the answers. You get about 10 minutes. Oh, yeah, we're doing fine. 10 minutes for this. See if you can. You don't have to write the full assimilator, but sketch it out as much as you can. I don't even know what the next one is.
I've also had a student come in with his kid sister who was failing my class and literally pull out his checkbook and say, "What's it going to take to make this go away?"
Yeah. Only once have I been offered a bribe. Only once. Yeah.
You know, I don't count the football player that offered me $10 to like give him an extension.
Images of a Lamborghini.
You can't be held that cheaply.
Really? He's also a
But you never know because you assume. Why wouldn't you assume that American culture is corrupt?
well, money has power in almost every culture, so I mean, really think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's still not okay in whatever country he's from. It's just the way you get things done when you're up against the wall. Man, whew.
Exactly. And their expectation is kind of the professional knowledge of the person will teach us.
I have nothing
I'm
to
here
offer.
to get educated rather than to participate in the small group discussion. I'm not here to contribute. I'm here to be educated. So that kind of perspective is
Yeah.
pretty common sometimes.
And it's very American to say, of course you contribute.
Yeah, we're looking at it as in terms of, class participation for some international students. It might be a little daunting for them, being that they may think, first of all, I don't have anything to contribute, the teacher knows it all. We should be learning from him or her, and thereby actually scoring low in participation. In my class, I assign a lot of, quite a chunk of percentage, relatively to class participation. And a lot of international students have found that, they really score low on that,
Well,
And even I learned something last week whereby a female student from Saudi Arabia tells me they've never been in a co-ed class until they came to the United States. And usually for them, culturally, they are not all that comfortable speaking out when there are males.
Well,
Yes.
are the males also from Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
That's the difference, because in our classes sometimes we have females from Saudi Arabia but no males. It's totally different.
Yes.
It's totally different.
one
It's
is
not,
like
not
almost
just the
like-
males, it's
yeah.
the Saudi males. That
Like I have
triggers.
about 5 Saudi males
Mm-hmm.
and then 4 females, and 2 of them are all covered, even their like full hijab.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I was like, oh my God, you should have told me this, but I'm glad I know
Oh.
now, yeah. From where you come.
Yeah.
Can't say that we're working really hard on this.
That's okay.
We found common interest.
There's no actual test.
Department my sister just applied for a job in.
Oh, really? What department that?
Organizational communication.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I want my sister to move here. So.
I understand. Mine moved here a couple years after I moved here, and it does work great if you get along with them.
What we do now.
Good. That's good. No, neither did we. When we were like in high school, we didn't get along, but we're best friends now.
I think 8 years younger than me.
Oh, that's big. Sally and I are only 2.
One between us. But there's 8. So she and I never really got along till she was 10.
Ah.
And then it was like, the light went out.
What?
I don't know why your kids have this temper tantrum all the time.
But you're not on the search committee, are you?
No.
See,
but
so
I'm still making
go ahead and agitate then. It's okay. Just come to a quiet moment. I can stay here too. It's cool. Oh, you're done. You don't. It's okay. Do you know that in the Anna and Nadia story, the American classmate was Vicky?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's how long ago, that's how old this example is, but it holds so true. Vicky knows this, because I'm not telling you a secret. Okay?
We accidentally wrote the entire response into the rationale.
Sweet. That's okay. It's not a test. It's okay.
Negotiation agrees.
So smart. So smart. Or you could even like knock it down a little. Like, so-and-so has gone to talk to their professor about their grade. Several times the professor's getting angry. Is that what you said?
Sid is not happy with the grade.
Uh-huh.
Sid did not show up for lab. The student arrived at the end of lab. The student wanted to get info from the other people who had attended the lab to pass that in. Sid received a 0 and is not happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I had earlier this semester a student who missed 12 times in the first third of the semester. So, so
You should have rephrased that.
Oh.
He showed up 2 times. In the
actually, that's the way it was. I said, "You've been here three times," and then I had to. It took us 3 conversations to really get across. You have failed. There is no.
Well, if we take Dr. Clark's presentation and how the husband shows up for the advising appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a number of students who they're having children this semester.
Yes.
So when the wife has a doctor's appointment, so the husband has to go to the doctor's appointment. They claim they can't schedule it at any other time than during my classes. So you go through the semester and halfway through he's been to like 5 classes. And his homework's late because I had to be at the appointment. I wasn't in the class, so I didn't understand. You have to be able to give me an extension.
God.
And then he gives me when everybody else passed in and it was already great.
Yeah.
So the syllabus says no late work.
No. I mean, that's why the syllabus sometimes saves us. I just keep going back. No late work. 10 times you fail. Like, there's nothing to be done. That's it. That's the contract. It's so frustrating. Okay. Oh, lots of Azizes.
Saying they're picking the most popular name.
that I know of.
This rule doesn't apply if letter drop will prevent the student from graduation.
The original model had 4 answers, but I often can't think of 4. I can think of 1 and 2 good detractors, which are plausible. And then by the 4th one, I'm getting so ridiculous that, I mean, it's just, why am I spending, they're not going to pick it anyway, so. How about another minute to get as far as you can? It's okay if you don't finish. So what'd you put down as the options?
The explanation.
Yeah, the explanation of the options. Like, well, actually, what did you tell them the options were?
Yeah, we didn't put the actual options.
Okay.
The options are kind of explanatory.
Brian
Didn't work with them.
is rude, respectful, and arrogant for not working with the student.
Check with your instructor.
Brian does not care about the student learning. Brian has chosen not to work with this student, but will with others.
So basically, didn't change the grade, didn't change the grade, didn't change the grade, and then didn't change the grade. That's certainly one option.
Well, another way to talk about this, though, is what are the students' options, right? One option would be continue going back to that professor, right? Which is obviously not the option. The other is talk to the professor's chair, right? Which they do, but that doesn't make it the right answer, right? But what would the right answer be when this happens? That's just like B. It's like, I do not want to alienate my dean. But what do students really do? When they really fail a class, what's their option? In fact, we'll do this for discussion. This is a really good place from. Okay, if you got kind of far or sort of far, want to talk about kind of where they got so far. Would you just summarize really quickly the situation? So what were the scenarios that you guys originally considered? Because with the difference between a cultural assimilator and just saying, don't do that, you'll fail, don't do it, you'll fail, are the difference between the set of answers. Go ahead with yours. Yeah. Right. So which one is, what is the instructor thinking from the student perspective? There's another set of answers that you can put to the same scenario, and that is, what can Sid do? Or what is the best course of action for Sid to do? 1, continue going to the professor until the professor changes the grade. Because that's what they pick, but that's not what we want them to do, right? Second one, go to the chair, right? Also not the best option, but we can explain why. When the professor says it's done, it's done. The chair, it's not the appropriate time to go to the chair. And the third one was, what, Dean? Dean. Or they go right to the provost. They get their friends, and they go right to, they're so angry. They tweet Bob Davies, they do all kinds of stuff. But really, there is a thing that students do. When students fail, there is an option they have. And what is it? It's academic appeal, right? And that's where I can usually finally cut off the discussion. on page, I can't remember, it used to be 48, I don't remember what it is in the current bulletin, is the procedure for students to appeal. Every student has the right to appeal their grade. The procedure is very clearly written down, and it always takes place when the class is over, because only final grades can be appealed. So this helps the native speakers who want to change the grade mid-semester. I'm like, we gotta wait till the end, but here it is, right? That's the option, and it doesn't matter, of course. I mean, the teacher has done everything the teacher needs to do, right? So the student can appeal. That doesn't mean the student's grade is gonna be changed, but that's the option. And it also gets that student out of your office, which is really, well, it's really important because, you get agitated, they get agitated. But that's why assimilators are pretty good. You can say, this will never happen to any of you students because you're obviously way smarter than this, but here's what happened before, and here, you look at the solutions, you tell me which is the correct one. That's how we can use this to try and diffuse something we know happens all the time. Takes 5 minutes. Once you get it written, takes 5 minutes. You can post it. Yeah.
What you're saying then is that in class, first day of class, you actually out loud say to your students, if you have a problem with your grade, rather than arguing with me, this is what to do, or do you go through?
No, I do this. It's much better. One, even the native speakers play along, and they don't even know the answer sometimes. But what we do is they get the scenario, they get the options, they discuss it, they try to discuss which is best, you show the answers, now everybody knows. And it's not one more. Instead of doing this, do this, or you should do this, and it's in the syllabus anyway, and it's in the student handbook, and it's in the academic bulletin. But we're just trying to say, this happens sometimes, so I'm just telling you all the answer now. But you're going to practice because in case you know the answer, you feel really smart, which is always good. It's always good to feel smart. And if something else comes up during the semester, I whip up another one about late times. What topic did you pick? Negotiated grades. How about you guys? Negotiated grades. How about you two in the back? What was your topic? Class participation, also important. Negotiate, you pick. Attendance. You guys? Attendance and attendance. Very good. Or attention during class. Yeah, that's okay. There's no test. But yeah, does anybody have a question? We've got this is coming out just right. I just wanted to show you the format. This is fun to do. We have 2 minutes, 30 seconds left.
I like this, especially when you do have a lot of international students, because it does give them another picture into the American culture, and that's a good thing so that they better understand too that at least in academia, we're really rule-driven. We may not think that we are, but we really are. And so helping them understand that it's not that we are rigid and flexible meanies that don't like international students. It's instead that in academia, we have all these rules and procedures that are there for a good reason. And so it helps them, and it's the same for our native students, it helps them understand that it's not that I'm, excuse my language, a hard ass. It's because these are the rules and that they're for a reason. So
In fact, that's a good assimilator itself. If you think you have students coming from countries where the professors are not nice, this is a big problem because nice can be interpreted as, we can negotiate out our grade. You'll help me out because that's what friends do when you're in those, what they call it, close contact cultures where personal relationship will trump rules. It's actually the opposite in American academia. Rules trump, we have no problem saying that because I'll say, nice. I will nicely tell you you're going to fail. That's kind of the story. It's like we got these, but the American students kind of get it, but the international students don't because they can't make that distinction. But for anything you think is going to come up, be proactive. 5 minutes, and then the late students won't see it, so you can do it on lateness. But I just love, this is just, like I said, an old-fashioned, super sort of anybody could think of it if you stop to think about it, but it's really useful for spelling out things you want students to understand and not make it like one more lecture that they're not listening to. So.
It also includes a lot of nonverbal clues. It's really mechanistic scenario. Like for example, that example about doing a ride, like sometimes Americans say like, oh, we need to get together for dinner. And it doesn't mean it's an invitation to a dinner, right? And okay, so let's pick a date, and it puzzles them, right? So it depends on how it was said, and how it was said, like in what sentence, and so it kind of removes all those nonverbal clues that a lot of students are very good at, because a lot of cultures, they're all about like picking out those nonverbal clues and little hints,
Oh yeah, there's the timer. Yeah, in fact, after my first year of teaching, I stopped using the modals. I stopped using should, ought to, could, might want to. I stopped saying I recommend. I stopped saying all that because, for first year international students, they're just not the same. So I would say you must. It's imperative, because I say so, but whatever it is that got them more in line with, this is what I consider important. Because anything that was a recommendation totally got ignored. It's like, I'm not really recommending, I'm just being nice. So, no, this has layers and layers, and that's why I thought the syllabus would be good to focus on, because it allows us to kind of just pull one important aspect, of course, which is the policies, kind of in perspective. But yeah, just communication in general is hard, which is why I'll have a job forever. So there you go. Any other questions, comments? This is really interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it.
We didn't sneeze once. I'm disappointed.
I blew my nose 5 times.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Everybody liked